Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel. Tech Ed here with another video for you. So today I was sitting in my office thinking, what can I do that I already have to make a video? So I looked around and I said, you know what? I have a lot of hard drives. So it was only natural that I went ahead and made a video about them. So I'm gonna bring you over to the desk and show you what I've got going on. Hard drives, what are they? What are they used for? Well, hard drives are more like long-term memory in a computer. They hold data, they hold files, they hold videos, movies, music, the operating system. They are the long-term memory is what I would call in a computer. I've got a few different kinds here, a few different sizes, just to give you an idea of what kinds there are and what kind of, you'd say, form factors that they would come in. Starting over here on the left, I've got an SD card. It is a universal mobile hard drive. It does use solid state storage, meaning that there's no actual physical moving parts in it. This one can go in a camera, can go in really anything that utilizes this form factor. Next, we've got the mechanical hard drive. So inside of this are a series of platters. They all spin. There's a needle on the inside that uses some kind of magnet to read and write data to and from. This is a 2.5 inch drive. Same size as this guy right here, but here I have a 3.5 inch, same thing, mechanical hard drive, uses spinning platters and a needle that moves across those platters to read and write data. So these spinning platters, they are a little older. I have two WD Blues here. I prefer this brand. WD hasn't let me down. And this one here, this 2.5 inch, I got out of a laptop. So salvaged the laptop. The drive works perfect, and I'll be showing you, I'm gonna put that back in my computer and use it as long-term storage. The connector that this one uses is a SATA connector. So there are two different connections. Even though it looks like one unit, there are actually two different connections here. One side, the larger of the two, is power. So you'll connect the power in to spin the disk and to power all the parts that are on the inside. The connection on the right here is used mainly for reading and writing data, so transferring of files and information back and forth. That plugs into the motherboard. So there's a different connection that plugs from here and into the motherboard. And the motherboard on the computer is what reads and writes that data. And as you can see, I've got a solid state drive here, clearly labeled solid state drive. And the solid state drive uses the same connections, SATA, power, and data transfer. But the solid state drive is a whole lot thinner than the spinning drive. It also weighs a lot less. Solid state means that there are no moving parts in this one. There is a microcomputer or a chip that controls power and data. So if you need to look that up, what that means, there are plenty of videos on YouTube showing what that information is and how they work. This is a 2.5 inch solid state drive, 500 gigabyte Samsung 860 EVO. Samsung, in my opinion, makes the best solid state drives. Right here we've got a new form factor, the newest kid on the block here. It's a NVMe SSD. The form factor is M.2. So same as before, there are two different connections here. One is power and one is data transfer. I'm assuming the smaller of the two is data transfer, but I could be wrong. This one here is only about the size of a stick of gum. If I had a stick of gum, I would put them next to each other and compare, but I don't. Data transfer speeds on this particular guy are a lot faster than the others. So this guy here is the big performer. Last but not least, it might look like a solid state drive, and it in theory really is a solid state drive, but I've got a portable SSD here, and it's a fully enclosed. It doesn't use the SATA connections that the others do. This one gets power and data transfer from its USB-C port, and that plugs into the motherboard via USB-C and transfers probably about as fast as this guy does here. So I'll be doing a little bit of testing with that. My methodology here is to see transfer speeds between the different types, the different form factors. So I'm going to run a quick test, game load times, and maybe some file transfers, and get back to you with those results.
And here are those results. I'll just read through them real quickly for you. So transfer speeds are the blue bars, and unfortunately I wasn't able to transfer anything to the M.2 drive because I currently have my operating system on that drive. But you're welcome to pause the video anytime and look at this information for yourself. But for transfer speeds, the SATA SSD transferred a 12 gigabyte video file at about 475 megabytes per second. The WD Blue hard disk drive transferred it at 185 megabytes per second. The T5 using the Type-C cable transferred at about 360 megabytes per second. The T5 USB 3.0 transferred at about 300 megabytes per second. Down below that we have the Need for Speed Payback game load times. Load times on the M.2 drive were 9.35 seconds. Load time on the SATA SSD is 9.92 seconds. The load time on the hard disk drive for the WD Blue was 18.45 seconds. Load time on the T5 using the Type-C cable was 9.4 seconds. Loading on the T5 with the USB 3.0 cable was 11.33 seconds. Far Cry 5, very similar in their load times. The M.2 drive was 13.94 seconds. The SATA SSD was 13.1 seconds. The hard disk drive was 27.64 seconds. The T5 Type-C cable was 12.56 seconds, which was actually a little faster than the M.2 drive, which was surprising. Might have to do with my operating system being loaded on the M.2 drive, but we'll test that further in another video. The T5 USB 3.0 drive loaded the game in 16.27 seconds. Between each of these games, the game transfers and loads, I did do a full system shutdown and restart to try to avoid any caching issues. Now I'm just going to run through a quick how-to tutorial on how to install these drives. This is not an in-depth experience by any means, but I just wanted to give you a little bit of insight on how to add these drives to your desktop computer. Alright, so I'm going to be taking this 3.5 inch WD Blue and I'm going to be sticking it back inside the case. Right about there. But first, I need to get it inside of its mounting bracket. And that's what I'm going to do right now. So as you can see here, I've got two different connections. One's providing power, which is the larger one. And this cable here is providing data transfer.
So this smaller one is plugged into the motherboard, and the power is plugged into the SATA connections on the power supply. And now all you do from here, I know it's a little hard to see, so I'm going to shine some light in there. You take the power and the SATA and you plug it in. And there are L-shaped grooves on these connectors, so they only fit in one way. It's really not hard to mess them up. So let me just plug those in. And those two are wired. So the 3.5-inch drive that I have is now wired in. Alright, so I've got another hard drive here. I've got a 2.5-inch solid state drive. I'm just gonna plug that in there. I've got some standoffs here, and the cool thing I like about this case is that it has these rubber grommets down here that I can just slide these standoffs in, and this hard drive will sit right here on the top. So that hard drive is going to sit right there, and I've got my SATA and power all ready to go on this guy as soon as I can find it. So here's my power. So I'll just plug this in. And that drive is ready to go. Now I know it's a bit difficult to see, but I have my M.2 drive here, and just for size comparison, there's the M.2 drive, and there is a stick of gum that I found in the house. So this 500 gigabyte SSD is only roughly about the size of a stick of gum. Crazy. It blew my mind the first time I saw it. But I'm going to go ahead and show you how it slots into the motherboard, and this will be the last drive that I slot in. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to take the drive and try and get this so that you can see. So with the logo facing up, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to find my M.2 slot on the motherboard, which happens to be right here on mine, and I'm going to plug it in. It's easy as 1, 2, 3. Then over here on this side, there's a little place that if you push it down, so push it down onto the motherboard, it has a little standoff there, and then you put a screw right there at the end of the standoff. So I have my tiny screw, and I'm gonna drop the screw. Alright, it's all good. I found it. So now you just take the screw and very carefully slot it in where it goes. My motherboard comes with a M.2 shield, and this helps provide some thermal dissipation if you're running some memory or hard drive intensive tasks. So next thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to install this back on. And just like that, the M.2 NVMe SSD is installed.
So, what can we conclude from this? Well, for gaming, I would say if you have the money, go for an SSD. It's going to give you great performance. They're fairly cheap right now. I think they're running about $30 to $40 for a 120 gig hard drive. You could get 500 gigabyte SATA SSD for about, I don't know, $80. So they're coming down in price, and they've been declining here in the last few months. If you don't have, a budget, you have all the money that you need, NVMe M.2 is going to be your choice. You don't have a budget. You don't need to save the money. You got it to blow. Go for this. It's going to give you the best performance. Just make sure that when you go into your motherboard BIOS, I learned just now that my BIOS, I have to go in and specifically choose 4 lanes instead of just 2 in order to get the best performance out of my NVMe drive. So I have been running this guy right here for the last, I don't know, year, and I have been running it at half speed. So I didn't know that. Just a quick tip for you. If you are on a budget, spinning drives are going to be your choice. You really don't have a choice, if I'm being honest. Load times are going to be longer. You can get a lot more storage for the price on these guys. So I would say if you're on a budget, get a small 120 gig SSD as your boot drive. They're only like $30 or $40. You can find those online. Amazon has some good ones. I'll probably link a few down below. And then all of your game files can go onto this spinning hard drive. You can get a terabyte for about $60. So that's a good option for you. If you're a gamer on the go, you play games on console, you play games on PC, you play games really anywhere, laptops especially. This guy here, this T5 external hard drive, the speeds I was seeing through USB-C were spectacular. They were honestly on par with the SSDs. So if you're on the go, I would say that would be a good option for you. They are a little pricey. I will link mine down below, but they are a good option for sure. Sorry for the long video. I thank you for watching, and if you've made it this far, please like and subscribe. I've got more content coming. I've got more plans in the future for things that I'll be teaching, and just like and subscribe. I really appreciate it. My goal is to get to 1,000 subscribers, and if I keep producing content that you enjoy, then subscribe. It'll help me out. Thank you, and I'll see you in the next one.